Hi everyone, so we're going to be working on a mini little site with a language translator. So I'm going to translate the site into between English and French. So first off, I'll create a brand new project here and I'll navigate to my desktop and then I'll create the Next.js 13 project. So I'm just going to call it website language translation. You can call this project anything you like. And for all these options that we get here, because I'm using Next.js 13, I'm just going to say no to everything. And I'll just drag and drop this folder over into Visual Studio Code. And right over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a bare bones project. So I just want to go to the index.js. And I'm going to delete everything in between the main here. And I will also delete this line that says const inter equals inter because it causes some issues sometimes, so I just want to delete it. And I'm also going to delete this import inter. And then I'll save it. So I just want to start with this basic template for right now. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to set up the data that I'm going to be using. So in order to get started on translating the data, I'm going to create a folder at the root of the project and I'll say i18n. And then I'm just going to create files here. I'm going to say en.json for English, and then also another file I'll put for French, fr.json. And this is where I'm going to actually do the translation for the pages. And what I will do is first start off with the English. And of course you can translate it to any language you'd like. There may be some additional steps you may have to do for certain other languages, but I'm just going to show you just for English and French for right now. So now that we have this data all set up, you can put some stylizing directly inside of it as well. And I'll also set up the French side of the data as well. And now that we're done, make sure you saved both of these files. So then we have this ready for us to use in the project. The next thing we want to do is we actually do have to install a few packages. So I'm just going to go right here and I'm going to delete that in the README file so I could show you exactly what we are going to translate. So this is going to be a language translation. And I'll say languages. I'll put English and French. And we need to install some stuff. So some of the installations that we will need to do are right over here. We need to install i18 next, and also the React Intel. So it's going to help with translating the language on the page. And in order to get started on this, let's open up our terminal and run these commands right here. So I'll do npm install next-i18 next. and I'll install the npm I react-intel. And once you have installed it successfully, you'll see next-18 next, I18 next, and also react-intel in the package.json file. So next thing that we'll have to do is we're going to have to configure the next.config.js file, and we need to actually let the program now know that we are dealing with I18N. So we're just going to, after the strict mode true, we'll just put comma, and then we'll add in I18N, and this is where we are going to say locals, and we're going to describe what languages we're going to use. We'll say EN and FR for French, and default locale will be English, EN, and locale detection we'll just put as false for right now. And that should be it for this file right here for the next.config.js. We should have this modified right here with the I18N information. Next, we'll go back to our index.js, and this is where we are actually going to begin adding a bunch of information. So I'm going to add in some imports at the top right here. I'm going to use a router that will help with changing between the languages, and also I'm going to import formatted message. There we go, for react-intel, and it's just going to help with finding the information on the page and then translating it based on whichever language we have set it to. Import link, because we're going to use the link tags to change between the different languages. And now here in between the home parentheses, we're just going to add the word dir, because we are going to use this to actually help with the text direction. And I'll set up a bunch of constants right here at the top in between the export and return. So locales, it's going to be coming from our next.config.js, and it'll use the router in order to change between the languages. Const intel is equal intel to use intel, and const title, we're going to grab the information from our .json files by storing it in these constants. And it's going to look for this ID page.home.head.title, which we'll be using on this page. And, well, it's actually going to be coming from here. So page.home.head.title, it's going to grab that information, and then we're going to be using it on the page somewhere by just referencing this constant called title. And what we're going to do is, for this title right here, we want to use whatever we grabbed from our .json file, and we're going to use this variable to replace what we have here, and use a curly brace and just say title here. So now we can place the title in our home page. And then also for content, we're just going to add the description. And now what we'll do is we need to translate. We can actually add a few different links right here. Based on the different languages, it could change. So we could say href lang x-default. And I can copy this, and I can also add, now just change the href language there to just en, and let's say fr. And now it'll be able to change even these like icons, the favicons, based on the different languages as well. And what we're going to do is right after the head and right before the main, we're going to add a header. And the header here is going to have a div which will contain, this is actually where we're going to display the different languages that we will be able to toggle between. So based on all the locals there that are given, we're going to do dot sort dot map locale, and I just need to put this in another bracket. And in between this link here, I'll have a div, and I'll just call locale, and it will display the language that we are moving between or that are available. And based on this page that we're on, the home page, it'll also show in the URL the language that it is at as well. And now all we have to do is add in some of the contents here in between the main. Now what we're going to do is right in between the main here, we are just going to, first off, I'm going to edit this main tag, and I'll put dir is equal to dir. So this is for text direction, and h1 formatted message. Based on the formatted message, we're going to grab the ID, which is page.home.title values. Chunks. So we'll just grab the title, make it bold each time. I could call this something else as well. Info. So then just going to grab the info to make sure whatever is there. It's just going to store it, and it's going to make it bold so the user can see. And this ID page.home.title is actually coming from the actual page.home.title, this JSON file. And if we go over here and let's do under the h1, we'll add a paragraph tag. We'll have a class name, styles.description, formatted message, and we're just going to grab the message now. There we go. So we have all the information right over here. And if we go to run this, so this page.home.description, if we go right here, we have the page.home.description, and it's just going to grab this information and then place it on in this area on the screen. And of course, this information is all being translated based on the locals, which is in our next.config.js. So it's looking at these locals and whatever languages we are able to translate to, and the default that the web page will always go to is the English version. And now we can run this, and it should display the translation. It should display the page with the little buttons on at the top that we can now move in between the two different languages, which are English and French, that we set up. So I'll do npm run dev. So when we get to this point, it says could not find required Intel object. It's because we forgot to do one last thing in our underscore app.js, is where we're actually needing to pass over the values. So if we go back over here, and if we go into our underscore app.js, right over here we actually have to modify, this is the entry point for the application to run, and in order to actually know which language it should jump between, we have to add a few more lines of code right here. And I'm just going to reference the .json files that we've set up for English and French. And I'm just specifying again, there will be messages that are between English and French. And this part right here, you could do different return statements based on the language. Some languages will require a little bit more modification than others, but I'm just going to leave it just like this for right now. And I'm going to be adding this local here. So this is just using the use router, so then it knows all the way from this root level as to what language the entire application will be on. So then whenever the person navigates between the pages, it'll stay at that language. And we need to wrap around the Intel provider. That's why we got the errors, because we need to use this tag right here in order to specify that we are using a language translator for the entire component. And we're going to use the local. So messages is equal to messages local, messages local. And we're going to, based on the direction, we will get the direction. So this is just going to help with translating the language and just keeping it at that language no matter where the user navigates to. This is where the root of that actual entire project starts at. So once we modify this, the entire project already knows when the user moves to other pages that it should stay at that language that the user has set it to. So we're going to save it, and I'm just going to check online here again. I might have to restart the server because I made a lot of modifications here. So right over here, if I go to my site, you'll see that we start off with the English text which says welcome to the home page. We get some text at the bottom, and you can see here at the top left there's EN and FR. EN for English and FR for French. If I click on French, you can see now that this text and this text gets translated to the other language. And we can go back to English by just clicking right there. So that's how you go about translating your page to another language.